Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista here on YouTube, and today is another face-to-face chat and also a true crime story time. So good news, I'm going to the retreat. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the organizer of the retreat wrote me back and was like, no, I'm comfortable with you coming, but I wouldn't come here and be blabbing about it. Yeah, no, I'm done talking about it because I've been dealing with it for the past 2 weeks and I'm done talking about it. So, a couple of you commented that, oh, I was probably feeling bad because of my booster. No, I just had my booster this past Saturday. I was feeling bad like Wednesday. So, I don't know if it was like psychosomatic, like thinking, oh my God, all that. But I'm feeling fine now. So, already packed up like 90%. I need to do my last clip from my stitching vlog so that I can pack up my stitching stuff. But my suitcase, clothes, all that's packed. I'm ready to go. Except I got to get through the work day. Yeah. So yesterday went well for the most part. A day never goes smooth totally in the arbitration. And I don't know if they're going to go into January. I've seen emails back and forth that says, the arbitrators are really going to push to be done by December 30th because think about it. I mean, you're going to be hijacking people's schedules once again. And the arbitrators are at the end of their rope because yesterday's witness, they were like, Mr. So-and-so, you just gave us a diatribe, a speech, when the question should have just been yes or no. Yeah, that happens a whole lot. And I'd even told Bill, if the attorneys were more succinct, because they seem very disorganized, if they were more succinct and the witnesses didn't blah, 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 we would be further along in this thing than we are. They may even, because we've had this happen before too, they might even make them brief the rest of their issues at the end because that's happened. I mean, by the time this is over, we will have done that for 50 days. 50. Like, Jesus Christ. I told Bill, I said, well, if it does go into into January, there will be an end eventually. There's got to be an end point eventually for it. That will just prolong my break though, because yeah, but I do have the week of Christmas off, so I'm looking forward to that. So we got this week, 2 more weeks, a week off, and then it's supposed to be the last week. We'll see. But okay, and I forgot that Jill is going to be in Ocean City this weekend also. She's taking her kids. Her and her husband are taking their kids to see the Festival of Lights or whatever it is there. And I was like, oh my God, in the hubbub of everything going on, I totally forgot she was going to be there. So I told her to text me when she is going shopping at the stitching store because I'm only like 4 streets away. I can just get out and walk over there. So, yeah. But okay. Today's story. Yeah, I'm tired as hell today. I haven't been sleeping that well and going to bed way too late because I just want to stay up and read and stitch. And you seen if you watch Seinfeld, have you seen the episode where Jerry talks about day guy and night guy? Like, you like night guy. He's like, let's party, let's do this, let's stay up late. And then day guy's like, yeah, I probably messed that up, but he does talk about it where, yeah. Okay. So today's story is called Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Judge Curtis Chillingworth was a much admired man in Palm Beach County, Florida during the 1950s, and with good reason. His family had a long history of public service, with his grandfather serving as sheriff and his father as the first city attorney in the area. Curtis himself had an outstanding legal mind. He had graduated from the University of Florida in 1917 and been admitted to the Florida bar a few months later. In 1921, he had been elected as a circuit judge, becoming the youngest person ever to hold that position at the age of just 24. Holy hell. And in 1917 and 1921, court was very, very different than it is now. So he had made a positive contribution in other areas too, serving as a naval officer in both world wars. During the intra-war years, he married the love of his life, Marjorie McKinley. The couple had been blessed with 3 daughters. But more than anything he might have achieved as a jurist or as an officer or as a father, Judge Chillingworth was admired for his integrity. Well, I'm guessing that goes awry because there wouldn't be a story. He was an unfailingly fair judge, strict but with an innate sense of compassion. He was also a stickler for punctuality, who was known to wait in his chambers watching the second hand on his watch so that he could enter the courtroom at precisely the right time. So when the judge failed to keep an appointment at his beach house in Maleficient, never even heard of that, on June 15th, 1955, there was immediate cause for concern. The appointment was with 2 carpenters, who the judge had hired to build a playground for his grandchildren. The workmen arrived at 8 p.m. as agreed, but got no answer when they knocked on the door of the cottage. After waiting an hour, they decided to walk to the beach for a dip in the ocean. Okay. They rounded the residence as that was when they noticed glass from a shattered outdoor light and a spray of blood against a wall. Ooh. The carpenters then walked to their van and went to alert the authorities. Good move. Meanwhile, at the courthouse in West Palm Beach, Judge Chillingworth's colleagues were also becoming concerned. The judge had not shown up for court that day and had not even bothered to call. Given the man's meticulous nature, this was highly irregular. After failing in several attempts to reach the judge by telephone, his clerk called the police and asked them to do a welfare check. He was informed that a squad car was already en route to the beach house. What they found there would see the officers cordoning off the residence as a crime scene. So there wasn't a lot to go on when the police got there. Aside from the shards of broken glass and the blood spatters, detectives found an area of disturbed sand, which suggested that a scuffle might have taken place. There were also 2 empty spools of tape, one in the living room and one outdoors. Where were these from? Had they been used to bind and gag the couple? The police didn't know at this point, but they were determined to find out. With little evidence to process at the scene, detectives turned their attention to tracing Judge Chillingworth's last movements. They learned that he and his wife had attended a dinner the previous evening and had left at around 10 p.m. They had most definitely made it home since the judge's Plymouth was parked in the garage with the keys still in the ignition. Their beds also appeared to have been slept in. So what had happened to them? Where the fuck were they, right? Had they been the victims of a home invasion, and if so, to what purpose? Nothing had been taken from the house. Even the judge's billfold and his wife's purse were undisturbed. It just did not make sense. In fact, some on the investigative team were beginning to think that the couple had not been the victims of foul play after all. One theory doing the rounds was that they had gone for an early morning swim, had gotten into trouble, and had drowned. The assistance of the Palm Beach Air Force Base was therefore called in. By that afternoon, boats, divers, and a helicopter were scanning the waters for any sign of the missing couple. Nothing. It was like they fucking vanished into thin air. The Chillingworths appeared to have vanished into thin air before I even said that. They would remain as missing persons over the next 2 years. What? Not even a $25,000 reward put up by the family or a $100,000 reward offered by the local legislature got investigators any closer to solving the mystery. So strange, right? In 1957, with seemingly no possibility of closure, Curtis and Marjorie Chillingworth were declared legally dead. And so it remained until 1959, when a West Palm Beach detective got a tip-off about a man named Floyd Holzapfel, known to his friends and associates as Lucky. Holzapfel had been drinking with an ex-cop named Jim Wilbur when he'd started talking about the Chillingworth disappearances, bragging that he knew what had become of the couple. That brings to mind, if you've seen the Shawshank Redemption movie, that's my favorite movie of all time, when somebody comes into the prison and admits they overheard somebody else confessing to a murder that one of the prisoners has been in prison for like 20 years for. Yeah. When Wilbur passed this information on, detectives started looking into Lucky Holzapfel's background. They learned that he had served as a paratrooper during the war and had been injured during the Battle of the Bulge, earning a Purple Heart. After the cessation of hostilities, He had returned to the United States and joined the Oklahoma City Police Department as a fingerprint technician. He had later decamped for Florida, where he had become a prominent figure in both the Young Republican Club and the JCs. He was also a Cub Scout leader. All of this seemed to paint Hosefeld as a productive, law-abiding member of society, but it told only part of the story. Lucky had a long rap sheet that included charges for armed robbery, attempted rape, and domestic violence. He had also been arrested for running an illegal bookmaking operation and was suspected of being a bootlegger. Was it possible that he had now expanded his repertoire to include murder? In order to find out, investigators encouraged Jim Wilbur to lure Hosefeld to a hotel in Melbourne, Florida, to ply him with drink and to get him talking about the Chillingworth case. Lucky seemed more than willing to partake of the free alcohol and also to amuse his host with details of the Chillingworth murders. He had no idea that his every word was being recorded by police officers stationed in the adjacent room. The story that Lucky had to tell was unsettling. He said that he had had nothing against Judge Chillingworth. He had been hired to carry out a hit on him. This was purely business, he slurred, no different to killing Nazis in Italy. On the night of June 14th and 15th, Lucky had traveled to Monopolin by skiff, coming ashore on a beach near the judge's home. He was accompanied on this journey by a fellow bootlegger named Bobby Lincoln. He had knocked on the front door at around 1 a.m., bringing Judge Chillingworth to the door in his pajamas. Hosefeld and Lincoln then produced guns and forced their way inside. They tied their captives' hands and then hustled them out onto the porch. At this point, Marjorie Chillingworth started screaming, and Lucky struck her with the pistol, causing the spray of blood that the police would later find. Okay. Judge Chillingworth then begged Lucky to let them go, saying that he would pay them $200,000. And $200,000 in the 1950s? Fucking lot of money. Yeah. Lucky ignored this and instead gagged the couple with tape to prevent them from talking. Shut your friggin' pie hole, right? So, bound and gagged, the couple were now dragged down to the beach and hustled aboard the skiff. They were then taken out to sea, drifting for about an hour before Hosefeld and Lincoln began strapping weights to their legs. Oh my God! Marjorie was thrown overboard first, with Lucky shouting, "Ladies first," as he consigned the terrified woman to the depths. Oh my God. I can imagine that drowning is probably one of the worst ways to die. Seeing this, Judge Chillingworth threw himself overboard in a vain effort to save his wife. With his wrists bound and weights tied to his legs, there was never any chance that he would succeed. Lucky simply brought the boat around and instructed his accomplice to club Judge Chillingworth with the shotgun. Lincoln obliged, using so much force that the stock shattered. Moments later, the judge slipped beneath the waves to join his wife in a watery grave. Hosefeld and Lincoln then returned to shore and made a phone call to the man who had hired him. "The motor is fixed," was all he said before hanging up, so that must have been code, right? So the officers, set up in the adjacent room with their listening equipment, were stunned at what they had just heard. But Hosefeld had still not revealed one important detail: the name of the man who had paid for Judge Chillingworth's murder. Wilbur now pressed him on the subject, eliciting a snort from Hosefeld. "The son of a bitch still hasn't paid me the $2,500 he owes me," he said. "And to think it was one of his own that he wanted dead." And Wilbur responds "What do you mean?" And the guy says, "Joe Peel, Judge Joseph Peel. He's the one who wanted Chillingworth gone." Wow. Judge Joseph Peel was almost as well known as Curtis Chillingworth in Palm Beach County. Like Chillingworth, he was a prodigy, a man who had risen to a powerful position early in life. In Peel's case, it was a posting as a municipal judge. But any comparison with Judge Chillingworth ended right there. Chillingworth was scrupulously honest, whereas Peel never encountered a law that he wouldn't break if the price was right. A married man with children, Peel was nonetheless a womanizer whose expensive tastes far outstripped his $3,000 a year judge's salary. So that tells you, okay, if you're making $3,000 a year and the other judge was willing to pay those people $200,000, That's like he was worth millions in today. He made up the slack by taking bribes and providing tip-offs to criminals. Fabulous. He also played fast and loose with legal ethics, and it was one such offense that saw him hauled before the Bar Association in 1953. Peel had represented both a husband and wife in a divorce case, a clear violation of legal protocol. He could easily have been disbarred, but Judge Chillingworth, who adjudicated the case, took account of his youth and issued him a warning instead. He did warn, however, that there would be no second chance if Peel came before him again. Given this narrow escape, you might have thought that Peel would have been scared back onto the straight and narrow, that he would have towed the line from then on. But Peel was not the kind of man to walk away from easy money. He continued flouting the law, and his activities only accelerated after he received his judgeship. It was rumored that he made around $3,000 a week in backhand payments. Wow. So if he's making $3,000 a year for salary, but then he's getting that per week, that is a lot of money. That was equivalent to his annual salary as a judge. It was not something that he was about to give up. When he again found himself called on an issue of ethics, when he was again instructed to appear before Judge Chillingworth, Peel knew that his ill-gotten gains were at risk. His solution was to take out a hit on the man who would disbar him. From that moment on, Judge Chillingworth's life was effectively over. His wife was simply collateral damage. So, with Holzefeld's confession now caught on tape, the police moved quickly to take him and Bobby Lincoln into custody. Hearing that his accomplices had been arrested, Peel tried to flee but was captured in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and brought back to Florida. The attempted flight from justice looked like an admission of guilt, but prosecutors had a problem. The bodies of the victims had never been recovered. Yeah, they were probably fish food in the water. That would make their case exponentially more difficult to prove. It was therefore decided to offer one of the accused a deal in exchange for his testimony. The obvious choice was Bobby Lincoln, but Lincoln drove a hard bargain. He wanted full immunity. Left with little choice, the county attorney eventually agreed. Faced with Bobby Lincoln's eyewitness testimony at trial, Holzefeld chose not to fight and entered a guilty plea to 2 counts of murder, naming Joseph Peel as the man who had hired him. He may have thought that his cooperation would earn him some latitude with the jury, but Lucky's good fortune had finally deserted him. Found guilty in December 1960, he was sentenced to death. Now it was the turn of Joseph Peel, and unsurprisingly, he was pleading innocence. Yeah. All that Peel would admit that he knew was that he knew about the plot to kill his colleague. He was guilty of failing to warn Judge Chillingworth, he said, but had never played any role in his murder. Unfortunately for Peel, that was not a story that the jury was prepared to buy. He was found guilty on 2 counts of accessory to murder and sentenced to 2 life terms. Paroled in 1979, he was immediately taken into federal custody to serve an 18-year term for mail fraud in Missouri. He would remain behind bars for only 3 years before walking free in 1982. 9 days later, he died of natural causes, so he was only out of jail 9 days. As for Floyd Lucky Holzefeld, he would ultimately be spared from his appointment with Florida's electric chair. His death sentence was commuted to life in 1966 with a parole date of May 3, 2009. Lucky would not make it that far. After suffering a stroke in 1992, he spent his last 4 years in a state of partial paralysis, and he died in 1996. So, what an awful story. Just senseless. I mean, again, another senseless crime. Like, the judge and his wife did not have to die, not by any stretch of the imagination. And to think that it was, another judge that organized it is just supremely awful. So, had you guys heard of that case? I didn't. Like I said, I never hear of any of these. There will not be a true crime video tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to, I'm going to be at the retreat. I'm going to do a vlog, so that will be up on Monday. But yeah, I haven't pre-recorded anything, and I'm not going to, so you guys will just have to watch something else. Or rewatch some of my videos. Yeah. But yeah, so I will see you guys again Probably not even Monday. Like Monday's going to be the retreat vlog. So Tuesday I'll be back with a true crime story. So as always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.